If you've recently purchased a home or if you've had a home for a while, you may be wondering, what are the different ways that my insurance claim could be denied? When I set up the policy or when I just am starting to look, the agent really didn't go over the pieces that I need to. So am I covered correctly? Let's go over the 5 main ways that an insurance policy could be denied for homeowners insurance in Michigan. The first and probably the most obvious way is the coverage itself wasn't covered. Essentially, your policy didn't have the coverage that you needed for that specific event. Most to all insurance policies essentially state that it has to be a sudden and incidental claim. That means if you have a leaking pipe or something that slowly deteriorates, if an animal comes in and starts living in the basement of your home, those pieces are long-term solutions that could have been prevented with maintenance most of the time. If that happens and that occurs, you're not likely covered in those scenarios. However, you should expect to have some sort of coverage for theft. If the house were to explode, we've actually had a video I'll link at the end where we interviewed somebody that our client has had his house explode. Maybe the wind came and knocked 20 shingles off the roof, or something happened where a pipe froze, and there were some that were and weren't covered, which is another video, but essentially you had the right coverage for all of the perils. That's why they call it an all-peril deductible. The second way that a home insurance policy in Michigan would be denied is if you were negligent. Imagine you're a smoker and you lay the cigarette butt on the end of your counter. I've seen that actually happen in a couple houses I was looking at, and you see little burn marks. If that were to cause a fire, that would have been negligence. You're not putting the cigarette in an ashtray. You're not putting the cigarette out. You have candles around a cat. That technically probably would be covered because you can't control the cat. But if you knew that something was an issue, if you put a smoker next to the house or in the house, there's a lot of different ways that you could have situations. If the roof was starting to come down and you just didn't want to fix it or have time, someone came over and it fell on them and someone got injured. So those scenarios could be considered negligent. Especially if you have a tree out in the backyard. If there's termites in that tree and that tree falls on the home and they notice that there's termite damage, that would have been a maintenance issue. You should have either knocked the tree down prior or taken care of the termites. That's probably one of the more common ways an insurance policy would get denied is general negligence. The third and also a main common one is misrepresentation. It's technically just another name for fraud. If somebody tells you that they have this much jewelry or this much design in their house, what they realize is that not all agents are going to come out and view the house. Sometimes you can take your own photos and submit them. Other times they send adjusters out probably 30 to 50% of the time. Some companies 70 to 100% of the time. But knowing that you don't have an actual value that you're claiming that the home has just to get a higher insurance claim. If you know that it's likely to have a fire and you say I have crown molding when you don't, or I have jacuzzi tubs and French doors and all of these pieces to your home that aren't actually part of your home, that can be misleading. Same thing with your personal property. If you say I have X couch or X watches or X things in my house, then you are likely causing some sort of fraud claim or piece that could cause that to be denied. The fourth way is actually a little bit confusing. It's doing the claim in a timely ordered fashion or matter or whatever you want to call it, right? Filing the claim in the right amount of time. Technically, if you look it up online or if you use some AI or any type of thing to search up how much time do I have, they're going to tell you 30 days. That's not right. Most companies or most websites will tell you 3 years. Some will tell you 2 years. So how long do you really have? It depends on the situation. In home insurance claims, according to the Michigan.gov website, you have to do several things to file your claim correctly. 1, you have to notify your insurance in a timely manner. Timely matter tends to be 30 days. If you don't notify them of the issue and then you try to file that claim several years later, you're going to get denied instantly. Now, will they investigate it and can you fight it and get it back into play? Absolutely. There are scenarios that sometimes will allow that. Do you really want to play that game? Obviously, each situation's different, but that's where you're starting to get those dates a little bit mixed up. The second responsibility that you have is to try to prevent any future damage. So in Michigan, let's say you had a pipe that froze and it exploded, but you never turned off the main water pipe. You let it run for 3 more hours before someone came out and fixed it. It's your responsibility to know, one, where that actual shutoff is. Most of the time it's in the basement, or sometimes it's out in the lawn, which now you got to move snow around, whatever the case is, and you got to get that shut off as quickly as possible. If you aren't aware and that's happening, then you need to call somebody, get a professional out to help you with that situation. Yes, will it cost you some money? Probably up front, but more often than not, the insurance company will pick up that bill because it's usually part of that process that you go through. The third piece that the state of Michigan recommends that you do is work with your insurance company. Now, a lot of people instantly go into a defense and think they're against me. If you're working with an agent, it's 10 times easier because they can give you those pointers and that advice of what to say and how to talk to the adjuster. If you're going directly to an adjuster and you come in like, hey, you got to do this, hey, this is happening, hey, get them over now, the insurance company does have a certain amount of time to respond. Normally, they have up to 30 days to assess the situation, and they usually have about 60 days to finalize that claim or get it processed. Now, we know that if the whole kitchen had to be rebuilt, it's not going to be done in 60 days. They're going to have the right time frame and process. If they go beyond the required amount, let's say it's an easy claim and they just haven't paid it, then they do actually get penalized. There is a percentage or an APR that you will actually gain from having that. Now, nobody wants to deal with that because we just want our house fixed or whatever the case is. We want it taken care of. So knowing those as the main pieces that you could get denied for your insurance claim, make sure that you're working with the agent that understands what your scenario is. What type of house are you in? What's the location that you're at? Because being in the woods is way different than being in the city. Are you near water? Is there fire stations that our response time is really fast? Or are they really slow and we need to determine, okay, do we need to add coverage for this scenario? Do we have water backup? Do you have a sump pump in the basement? There's all of these pieces that the right agent will help you with. If you don't have an agent that you're working with, I'll put a link in the description below. Feel free to check us out. Let me know in the comments below, what pieces did I miss? Have you had a claim in the past that did or didn't get denied? And what was the scenario? Was that more of the insurance company, the agent, or you just weren't aware that you didn't have the right coverage? In the meantime, if you want to learn more about the coverages, I'll link our Ultimate 101 guide for home insurance. If you want to know more about the endorsements, kind of those pieces that most people will put in the comments below to where they weren't covered, I'll put our endorsements link here. I'm Mark with Valor Insurance. I'll see you soon.